Can't we just leave it alone? Leave it alone for more than 1 year. Leave the playoffs alone. Let it breathe. Let's see some more data. Let's play it out. Let's watch the quarterfinals. Let's watch 2025, for God's sake. Leave it alone. And because we can't leave it alone, because everybody, since 4 minutes into the Indiana Notre Dame football game, 4 minutes into the first quarter, everybody lost their bleep. Because of that, Notre Dame is laughing and laughing and laughing at all of us. Two master, bend the knee, with the emphasis on the ND. What are we doing? We have lost our minds. What is going on? God. We finally get what I want. We finally get what I want. I finally get what I want. And it's already slipping through my fingers. I think the writing is on the wall, but this is not an official. Tonight is not going to be an official peek around the corner in regards to the next and newest playoff format. A lot of what I'm about to say, you can consider it speculation, but the writing is on the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, the writing is on the wall. And I, as a college football sicko, I don't like where it's heading. I like what we got now, but, you know, we just can't. We've got to try to legislate against blowouts. We got to do all we can not to have blowouts. Now we've got to do all we can to disincentivize conference championships. Even though it democratizes the sport. You know what? This is the college football playoffs that I have wanted for over the last 2 decades. And I'm really having a hard time sitting here, the fat guy from Minnesota. Cold weather is coming, and I'm having a hard time enjoying it. Because the rest of the college football world has lost their freaking minds over 4 football games. 4 of them. You know how many blowouts I had to watch during the 4-team playoffs and the 2-team BCS playoffs, or whatever you want to call it? They're blowouts all over the place. But we can't have, we must not have blowouts in the 12-team format the way we have it now. We've got to make sure. We've got to be positive. We got to make sure that the top 4 seeds match the top 4 ranked teams in the country. We got to do it. We don't do it in the NFL. My Minnesota Vikings, if they lose to Detroit, they're going to have the 2nd best record, but the 5th seed, that's okay in the NFL. College football, we can't have that. No. No, in college football, it's got to be pure. In college football, we got to rinse out all the incentives for winning a conference championship. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to this college football's Rebel Outpost, hit the $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio. Everybody is welcome into the studio. Everybody, and that includes my family living in Chicago and Colorado and across the country. Parts of my family that are big Notre Dame Irish fans, coming from an Irish Catholic family, as we do. You Irish fans are also welcome into the studio. You're welcome in to laugh at the rest of us, because you deserve to be able to laugh at the rest of us. Because once again, Notre Dame is getting everything it wants. Because The rest of FBS cannot keep their bleep together. Everybody is welcome in the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend. With your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. I want to thank everybody for coming on in. It's a Monday, early evening for many. December 30th, the night before the quarterfinals, the night before Penn State and Boise State. We're going to be doing a watch party here at Peek Around the Corner. Come join us tomorrow night. It's going to be a lot of fun. GT is in the house. Skaven, yes. Mad Gopher, go. Big Red Cornhuskers in the house. RT, Mr. Monkey says. Bimba, 7579. Early Happy New Year. Good evening, CFB Plus. Good evening to you. Mr. Buckeye, Caleb Ramirez is in the house. Mr. Monkey Says is in the house. Tumasta is here. Charlie Atwood, Chad Bracey, Jared Jones. We're going to talk about Iowa in a moment. We are going to talk about the Iowa Hawkeyes in a moment. Now again, because this is the most unpopular college football YouTube channel in the country, because I get everybody upset with me. Boo-hoo, Big Ten. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. I don't care if the evil Iowa Hawkeyes lose. Of course I don't. Congratulations to the Missouri Tigers. Brady Cook, incredible, really good college football career at Mizzou. But Iowa, man, there is no football program in the country in which there is a more clear delineation between what they do great and what they do bad. The lines are clear. We're going to talk about Iowa in a moment. If that bowl game is about next year, if that bowl game is about the future, if that bowl game is about development, if that bowl game is to see what you have at quarterback, then you go for it. You go for it on 4th and 2 with 3 minutes to go in the game. Stephen McNeely is in the house. Bo Weevil. We got to talk about Clemson. We have to talk about Clemson. Cade Klubnik is coming back. That is official as of, 20 minutes before we came on live. I'm sure Bo Weevil knew it was going to become official, but it's become official. It is going to be almost impossible for PATC not to have Clemson as the way too early 2025 ACC champion. Because at this point in time, they've got their true freshman wide receivers coming back. They've got a lot of guys coming back. They don't have their tight end. He's going in the draft, but they've got a lot of dudes coming back. And Klubnik, I've been pretty tough on Klubnik. I was tough on him last year. I have not been tough on Klubnik the second half of the season. The light bulb has come on. So I got a feeling that Clemson is going to be on the top shelf in the ACC and PATC country. But you know what? I'm going to keep my mind open. We're going to evaluate spring ball. We're going to go into the summer camp. We're going to keep an eye on injuries, development. But Clemson is going to be a very difficult team to unlodge as team number 1 in the ACC. Sankey strikes again. AARC, Daniel Moncastle, I love speculation. Notre Dame auto bid? No, not an auto bid, but we'll get to it in a moment. The big Lubbock is in the house. Texas Tech Red Raider. Jose is here, Mr. USC. Nick Kelso. Thomas Moss. Thomas Moss is in the house. Automatic bid for the Gators. Bleep everyone else. You got that wrong, Thomas Moss. You've got that wrong. Automatic bid for the beloved Golden Gophers. And then the rest of you is just the rest of you. Richard L. is in the house. Oof, rough weekend. Rough weekend for Colorado, but then if you put it up against the wall and you see what has happened over 2 years, where Colorado was 2 years ago versus what they are today, holy smokes. Holy smokes. So keep that in mind. Keep everything framed up where Colorado is today. Now, we'll get into Colorado football, Colorado Buffalo football in the spring and summer. I don't think that true freshman is going to be their QB. We'll talk about it more. Not at the beginning of the year. We'll talk about it more as the months go on. Protect the Irish at all costs. Nick Kelso. Oh, brother. Here we go. What a title of a stream. Yes. Notre Dame is laughing. They're just laughing at us. They're laughing at everybody. And they got every reason to laugh at everybody. Michael is in the house. Is Gunnar Stockton that good for Georgia? For Georgia to be the 1-point favorite? I have no idea. You know, he looked pretty good. He looked pretty good in the last half of the SEC championship game. He looked like he was, from my vantage point, it looked like he was processing the field. He was looking downfield, right, when he was scrambling. He wasn't tunnel vision. It looks like he was handling the live bullets. But Notre Dame's defense is on another level. Notre Dame's secondary is absolutely brilliant, even though they're missing Benjamin Morrison. You got Xavier Watts back there. He's a playmaker. Holy smokes. Now they're missing their D-line. They're missing their out injury, their big pass rush. Defensive lineman on the edge. But Gunnar Stockton, I don't know, man. It is a big question mark. Massive question mark. Give the ball to Frazier. Give the ball to Frazier. It's time for the Bulldogs to have faith in number 3 and give Frazier the rock. That's just my opinion. My opinion only. Anthony Carlson is in the house. Rudy. Oh, boy. They are feisty.
Oh, my God.
They are feisty in the chat room. B. Bean is in the house. J. Go Blue is here. The Evil Badger, Ryan Willie, they're going to ruin college football. Gorb is in the house. Nice to see Gorb. Nathan Campbell. Hi, Nathan. I hope you're doing good. James Davis is in the house. Sam Kim. Let's see what the Buffaloes look like without Sanders and Hunter. Immaculate. Oh, well, the game is closer than I thought it would be. I'm going to start off talking about that game. Let's talk about that game. Thank you for all of you joining us on a Monday evening, December 30th, the night before the quarterfinals begin. First, I want to get to this news item. Front Office Sports, Boise State, who is playing Penn State tomorrow night. We're going to be doing a watch party. Beginning of the quarterfinals. Boise State is the first G5 team in the 12-team college football playoff. The Broncos have plans for a $300 million athletics village featuring a new weight room, premium football seating, $100 million Olympic sports arena, soccer stadium with beach volleyball courts. So Boise State investing more and more money into the entire athletic department. So pretty interesting news. I think we're going to find out more of that as time goes on. Before we get to the title of this live show, where Notre Dame is laughing and laughing and laughing at the rest of us, that Iowa-Missouri game, pretty good bowl game. Pretty good bowl game. Of course, a lot of guys missing. Pretty good bowl game. Brady Cook, really good career. Ended today at Mizzou. Missouri, back-to-back 10-win seasons. Real good. Mizzou, man. And I've talked about it. I've talked about it on my account on X. I think Missouri's had a really good portal season thus far. So congratulations to Missouri. Drinkwitz doing a great job. You know, at the beginning of the season, I predicted Missouri just to be on the outside looking into the college football playoffs. I had them just quite not making it. In fact, I had Missouri and Miami, Michigan. Those were the teams that I had just outside of the playoffs. And Miami was just outside the playoffs. Missouri was just outside the playoffs, although they were in back of other SEC teams such as Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina. But they had a pretty good season. That defense has got to get better for Mizzou next year. That is where it has to happen for Missouri. Iowa. And I said this at the beginning of the show. There is no football program in the country that delineates, that has such a clear line of where they are great at, what they're outstanding at, and what they're just behind the times at. Now I see Immaculate's in the house. He may disagree with me or he may agree with me. Just my opinion, of course. But you got to go for it on 4th and 2 with 3 minutes to go. You got to go for it. For a couple reasons. One, it's a bowl game. Yes, it has meaning, but it's a bowl game. Let Sullivan, let the offense, let somebody have a chance to make a play. One of your wide receivers that you're trying to develop, or running an attack, Patterson, whatever it is, you got to go for it on 4th and 2 with 3 minutes. And if you don't make it, you still 3 downs and out, you're going to get the ball back. Either Missouri's going to miss a field goal or you're going to get the ball back anyways. Down 6, down 3. You got to make it 3 down, stop either way. Let your offense have one more chance at it and then tell your defense to go 3 and out. Have another bite of the apple. I got to tell you, 90% of the college football programs, head coaches would have went for it right there. But Kirk Ferentz did not. And by the way, the head coach has had an unbelievable career at Iowa. He's about to take over the all-time wins from Woody Hayes. All-time Big Ten wins. So the guy knows more about football than I will ever possibly know. A great successful head coach. Great successful head coach. I mean, Iowa they have been basically over the last couple decades the 5th best team in the Big Ten. Sometimes the 4th best team in the Big Ten. If you rate all the teams, Iowa is right behind Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. They've been better than everybody else. You can argue Wisconsin, but you can't argue anybody else. So Kirk Ferentz has been incredibly successful. Unbelievably successful. But I got a feeling that Iowa really needs to make a change, not because Kirk Ferentz is unsuccessful, but I think Iowa is now going to consistently hit their ceiling. Because of the way things have changed in college football. They're going to continue to win football games with Kirk Ferentz. And if they get somebody else, maybe they lose. You don't want to take steps backwards. And I completely can understand that as well. But it's just, again, it's a symptom of an issue. If you're playing that bowl game to develop your quarterback, to develop the receiver that's only played 75 snaps throughout the season, you got to go for it on 4th down with 3 minutes to go. That is my opinion. Let me know in the chat room with your phone calls. They still got another opportunity. The quarterback sneak, if Sullivan would have went low right after he got the snap, he would have made it even with the guy flying over the middle. But he stood himself up and he tried to take it off tackle. But anyways, congratulations to Missouri. Iowa with another 8-win season. I know that disappoints most of their fans because it's such a winning program. But and Kirk Ferentz is coming back next year. So, and he should. But let's just say this. Once Iowa does make the change at head coach, very interesting time at Iowa City because they have a fan base that will support that program, all gas, no brakes. I just think that Kirk Ferentz sometimes has his foot on the brake. He likes to tap the brake a little bit too much. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. All right, so let's get to the story. We can go back after we go through this story here about the college football playoffs. I'm going to open it up to the phone lines, and you can guys let me know what you think about the playoffs starting tomorrow, the portal, and everything else going on in college football. Brett McMurphy. Brett McMurphy Action Network. College football playoff rankings. How college football playoff committee can change seeding in 2025. Pasadena, California. Again, the great Brett McMurphy Action Network. On Tuesday and Wednesday, the college football playoffs ludicrous seeding system will be on full display. 4 quarterfinal games, 2 legitimate matchups, Georgia versus Notre Dame, Oregon versus Ohio State, and 2 matchups conceived after realignment made the original plan obsolete. The number 3 seed Boise State and the number 4 seed Arizona State absolutely belong in the college football playoff as conference champions. They do not, however, under any reasonable analysis, metrics, straw poll, or ranking system, deserve a first round bye. Well, I'm going to circle back to this after we get through the article. Boise State is an 11-point underdog to number 6 seed Penn State, while Arizona State is a 12.5-point underdog to number 5 seed Texas. Yes, it's college football, and there have been numerous upsets by underdogs twice as large. This doesn't mean that Boise State and Arizona State can't or won't win either game, but neither team should have received a first round bye when the College Football Playoff Selection Committee ranked the Broncos 9th and the Sun Devils 12th. The good news for the overall legitimacy of the college football playoff is multiple sources have told the Action Network that there will be in-depth discussions about changing the seeding process for the 2025 season when the conference commissioners meet later this month. This would provide first-round buys to the top 4 teams in the final rankings, regardless of whether it won a conference title. Sources said, as the Notre Dame Fighting Irish bend over, laughing hysterically at the rest of FBS football. In 2026, it's unknown what the playoffs will look like. 12 or 14 teams, 120 teams, who knows? But it absolutely will not feature the same seeding format as this season. What 2026 will look like is unknown, except that the SEC and the Big Ten bigwigs, Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti's fingerprints will be all over it. You know what? Maybe that is true. That is true because the Big Ten and the SEC have the governance power, the voting power to change a lot of things in the college football playoffs starting in 2026. There's a couple exceptions. One of them is they're still going to have the top 5 conference champions get an automatic berth. That cannot be swept away until after 2031. But pretty much everything else can be changed by the hands, by the vote, by the power of Petitti and Sankey if they combine their power together. But I'm going to tell you right now, Notre Dame is looking at this It's not just Sankey and Petiti with their fingerprints. They have completely bent the knee to Notre Dame. We'll circle back to that as well. So what about 2025? Sources said there's momentum to do something for next season. There's a lot of momentum, and there is a lot of cloak and dagger stuff going out there, guys and gals. There is so much cloak and dagger that it's very difficult. Now, again, I said this at the beginning of the show. I think I know what the writing on the wall is telling us. But it is not a peek around the corner. A lot of what I'm going to say is too much speculation for me to call it an official peek around the corner. But I think we know, I think there is a certain destination where what the college football playoffs is going to look like for 2026. Back to the article again, Brett McMurphy and the Action Network. Sources said there's momentum to do something for next season, the final year of the current 12-year contract, to tweak the seeding so teams not deserving a first-round bye don't jump 5 or 6 teams ranked ahead of them. The most popular concept for 2025 is still to give automatic bids to the 5 highest ranked conference champions, but award the top 4 seeds to the selection committee's 4 highest ranked teams, sources said. So in other words, Notre Dame, they don't have to win a conference championship to get a first round bye. Notre Dame doesn't have to play a conference championship game at all. They're not going to play a conference championship game at all. And they could, if they're the top 4 ranked team, have a bye. So Notre Dame could have 2 weeks off between themselves playing Navy or Army or whatever. And then they're going to be they're going to be in the quarterfinals without playing a CCG if they're ranked one of the top 4 after the end of the regular season. Notre Dame is eating their cake, eating the frosting, and they're drinking your milkshake. Notre Dame is drinking your milkshake. Why? Why? Because college football is so pure that it can't even be like the NFL, where the loser of the Detroit Lions game, Detroit versus Minnesota, the loser of that game is going to have the second best record in the NFC, but they're going to have the 5th seed. And there is only going to be a handful of Detroit Lions and Minnesota Viking fans that are going to complain. Because everybody understands the rules going into it. Everybody understands they need to incentivize the divisional champion, for God's sakes. The teams that you play twice a year. But for whatever reason, everybody lost their bleep the first year of this college football playoffs. just because we had blowouts, just because Boise State had a spectacular G5 season, because they had a running back who finished second in the Heisman. We can't handle this. So now we're gonna try to make it even more pure. We're going to try to make it even more pure. We're going to try to make sure there's no blowouts. Notre Dame is laughing at everybody. They're absolutely laughing at everybody. Larry the GM, Greg Favors, AAA conference champion, given buys over second place Major League Baseball teams. Well, here's the thing, Larry the GM. If you think that the Big 12 and the ACC and the G5 and AAA, then separate from them. Do what you want to do then. Hey, Big 10, separate. Hey, SEC, separate. Hey, Big 10 and SEC, separate together. But when everybody is in the pot, now you got to try to make it so pure. You can't possibly. I'm telling you, man, Notre Dame is laughing at everybody. Everybody. It's embarrassing. Just because, my God, Boise State got a first round bye. Come on, man. Everything's got to run its course perfectly, how everybody thinks it should happen at the beginning of the season. And if it doesn't, something is seriously wrong. If there's a blowout, we've got to change it all up. I am going to remember everything about this. I am going to remember everything about this. I am. When Notre Dame is sitting there with a 2-week off, back to the article. We should be open to getting the seeding right regardless of what that means, a commissioner said. But protecting conference champions and securing a spot in the playoff is a must. Well, I got to tell you, Mr. Commissioner, who's ever saying this, that's going to go next, by the way. In 2031, that's going to be stripped from you. That is going to, there's going to come a time where there's no incentive to win a conference championship. It's being stripped away. We're seeing it in real time. Another conference commissioner said they could get there to allow first-round buys to the 4 highest-ranked seed teams, regardless if they were a conference champion. So we're going to get a second-place Big Ten team. We're going to give them a bye. They're going to get a bye, right? Or a second-place SEC team. Or, God forbid, it's probably going to be a second or third-place SEC team. Again, if you think everybody else is AAA or AA or single A, then, then I think a separation should occur. If purity is the striving motivation of the creation of this playoffs, then a separation should occur. But I think the driving motivation of the college football playoffs is to have the possibility of a Cinderella, have the possibility of drama, democratize the sport so more teams have more hope to get into the playoffs. We're still going to have the best teams playing for the championship. Just look at the FCS playoffs. But I don't understand. If you are going to, I don't even have to read the rest of this. If you are going to have an FBS playoffs where everybody has access to it, and now you are going to fundamentally say that conference championship, we're going to devalue it. It doesn't give you an automatic first round bye or a real good chance, 80% chance or higher to get a first round bye. Those conference championships are already being stripped away. Now, as you can tell, I completely disagree with this, what is going to happen. But this is my, I think the writing is on the wall. I think if they are going to do this, they're going to push the envelope all the way. As we said on September 9th, I think the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get multiple qualifiers. Why wouldn't they at this point? I think they're going to get 4, 4, 2, 2, 1, and then 1 at-large bid. I think they're going to push the envelope all the way. If they're going to be able to have 2 Big Ten teams, I mean, look. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. If you're going to have a Big Ten forget about the Big Ten, SEC championship game, you do not, we've already seen the selection committee, they're not going to punish championship game, the teams that lose in the conference championship games. If they play a competitive football game, they're not going to punish them. They're not going to have that loss equal to a regular season loss, which is fine in my opinion. They said that before the conference championship games. We saw SMU lost in a last-second field goal, so they weren't going to push them out. I think that's fine. But I think we're heading towards a Big Ten getting 4 automatic qualifiers, SEC getting 4 automatic qualifiers. They're not going to worry about beating each other up. They're going to schedule these games amongst each other, the Big Ten and the SEC. And they're going to be able to have more than one team in either one of those conferences have a first round bye. They're going to push the envelope all the way to the end. So we are going to have, this is the world that we're going to be in. The one aspect to this is, along with that, I think the writing on the wall also says that we're going to a 14-team playoff. Again, this is mostly speculation on my point tonight. But as you know, on the September 9th live show, we were the ones that broke that the Big Ten was going from 3 to 4. They were going to try to get 4 automatic qualifiers. But I think the writing is on the wall. They're already switching this all up. They could not go more than 1 year. I think we're going to go to 14, and I think we're going 4, 4, 2, 2, 1 for the G5, and 1 at-large bid. That's what I think. I would rather. I do not think they're going to go to 16 right away, because I don't think they're going to go to 16 in 2026. They might, but I'm going to go ahead and bet against it right now. Number one, I haven't heard anything about it. No one has said, I think they're going to go to 16, or they might go to 16. Number two, going to 16 is not written in the current media contract with ESPN. If they went to 16, they would have to go back and renegotiate with ESPN. I think they're going to go to 14. I think they're going to go to 14 at least for 26, and we'll see after that. 26, 27. But, and then what are they going to do? Are they going to reseed? Are they going to reseed after the first round? You're going to have two. If you go to 14 teams, you're going to have two teams with a first round bye, and then there's going to be 6 other first round games. And then they're going to reseed after that. You know, I don't get why. I just don't understand, ladies and gentlemen. Before I open up the phone lines, I do not understand why the NFL is okay. The fans are okay. Everybody is okay. These multi-billion-dollar franchises are okay with these incentives to win a division. You win a division, you have an opportunity to get a first-round bye. Well, only one team does now. But you're seeded higher than the wild card teams. This has been going on for decades. But college football could not go 1 year, because there wasn't more than one Big Ten team that had a bye, because there wasn't more than one SEC team that didn't get a bye. That's why we're changing this up. God, it's embarrassing. And now Notre Dame, who sat there and had a compromise, like, okay, we've had the discussions back and forth. I still think that Notre Dame was a little bit at a disadvantage. But Notre Dame believed they were at an advantage. I can see it both ways. Where Notre Dame gets to skip the CCG, but they have to play in the first round. I argued that Notre Dame had a little bit of a disadvantage because they could go 12-0, but they still would have to play in the first round, and there's less time to recover from injuries from the first round to the second round than it is from CCG to the second round, whatever. Now Notre Dame could get a first round bye in a 14-team playoff. They could be ranked number 1 or number 2 in the nation, and they don't have to go to the CCG. They don't have to go to a conference championship game where they could lose and slip out of the top 2. No. Not Notre Dame. Not Notre Dame. Not Notre Dame. They don't have to gamble. If they're 1 or 2 after the regular season, they don't have to go to the CCG. They don't have to be a conference champion anymore if this thing goes through, and they can get a first round bye. I've had Larry the GM in the comment section says, why do you have AAA getting a first round bye? Well, how about this, ladies and gentlemen? How about you treat nobody special? How about that? I do not see the sin. I do not see the sin in having Arizona State having a bye. I don't see it. I don't see it. They won the conference championship. It was a battle. They almost did not get a first round bye. Remember? They had to have certain things go their way. They lost early. But with this incentive, with this format, They kept playing. They kept getting better. They got to the Big 12 championship game. They won. Clemson beat SMU, and Arizona State got a first round bye. And Boise State lost 3 points to Oregon. Played an incredible football season. They got a first round bye. And if Georgia would have lost to Georgia Tech was the 7th place team in the ACC, ladies and gentlemen, and Georgia beat Georgia Tech 44-42. I don't know how many overtimes it went. But what if Georgia would have lost to Georgia Tech and then won the SEC championship game? Do you still think that Georgia should have been the number 2 seed and not Boise State? I don't, again, I agree with MBM. The powerhouses are still most of the time, is going to end up at the end with the flowers, with the trophy, competing, the Final Four. But don't you want to do something that's good for the sport? We just did this Boise State story. You don't think that's good for the sport? You think it's terrible that Boise State would have an opportunity, if everything goes right, to have a first round bye? I don't know. I said my piece. I want to hear what you guys got to say. But I think the writing's on the wall. I really think we're going to a 14-teamer. 2 byes. And the seedings are going to be, the rankings, the seedings are going to be going by the rankings. So, anyways, we're going to open up the phone lines. You guys, we're opening up the phone lines. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. There were other news that I want to get to as we wait for the phone calls to roll in.
From
Steve.
Bearcat Steve is on the line. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me okay, Greg?
I sure can, sir. Yes, I can.
Okay, I've been having a little trouble. Verizon, I think, is giving me a little trouble. Anyhow,
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, you and I had this discussion. Give everybody what they want or what they think they want. If you're going 14 teams, give the SEC a bracket. Give their best team a bye. Give the Big Ten a bracket. Give their best team a bye. Give them 4 teams. Give the Big 12 and ACC 2 teams. Have 2 at large if that needs be. Notre Dame, you're not going to play a conference championship, so you're not going to be seeded any higher than what you and the rest of the G5 decide, because you're going to be part of that, because you're not playing in a conference. And then just start seeding everybody in 2 17 brackets. Okay? And it's up to the conferences, it's up to the SEC and the Big Ten to say, here's our 4 best going into the brackets. It's up to the Big 12 and ACC. Here's our best 2 going into the bracket. It's up to the G5 of Notre Dame. Here we are. Okay? Now, you don't need a committee to figure that out. And you don't need rankings to figure that out because you can preset the seedings. Big Ten and SEC both get the number one seed with the bye in 2-17 brackets. And then you can give the SEC, or excuse me, the ACC and the Big 12 each for conceding 4 teams at a number one seed. They get the second round, or they get the second seed in the 17 bracket. Then you can give the SEC and the Big Ten their third seed, and you go from there. And guess what, Notre Dame? Until you decide that maybe you need to play 13 games to win a conference championship, we don't owe you nothing. Didn't you say that the SEC and the Big Ten here lately are tired of bowing down to Notre Dame?
Yeah, well, yes, but you know
Yeah.
what? If you don't need to be a conference champion to get a first round bye, then they're acquiescing to Notre Dame all over again. So
that's what I'm saying, Greg.
Yeah.
Quit it.
Yeah.
And you tell me that Sankey and Petiti sitting in their ivory towers aren't going to say, "Hey, we'll take 4 in a 14-team playoff, and we'll each take a first round bye."
Yeah, I'm gonna. As I reported on September 9th, and Peek Around the Corner was the one that we were the ones that broke it, that the Big Ten was shooting for 4. I know the realities of them going for 4, and I'm at the point where I think it's going to happen. But I'm not giving a peek on it because no one has said it's going to happen. So I'm not reporting it. I'm just speculating, Steve. I'm just saying I think kind of like where you are, I think they're going to go get it. I think they're going to get it. I really do. But
let them have it.
Okay. I mean, I have no power, obviously. I'm just the fat guy from Minnesota screaming into a microphone. But I'm going to tell you, Steve. I'm warning everybody. I understand where you're coming from. But if the Big Ten, if we go to a 14-team playoff, God, this better not happen. If we go to a 14-team playoff and the Big Ten and the SEC they're champions, automatically go and get that first round bye, boy, this is not a sport anymore.
Well, okay, is the NFL a sport because one team gets each?
No, because it's not automatic. I mean, teams from different divisions.
Okay, I get that part.
What? If the Big Ten and the SEC champions are locked into a first round bye, then it's time for the Big Ten and the SEC to separate themselves. I'm going to watch this separation. I'm going to watch teams over there. I'm going to watch it all because I love college football. But if they're going to demand and push and get a first round bye automatically over a 12-0 Cincinnati Bearcat, over 12-0 BYU Cougars, over 12-0 West Virginia Mountaineers, I am going to go ballistic.
Sooner or later, they're going to have to play them in a bracket.
But they don't
so
just
prove on.
It's too. I'm just giving you my honest. I understand what you're saying, but it goes against pretty much every single fiber of my being as a college football fan. I would revolt. I would probably lose 80% of subscribers on this channel because I would lose myself in this. I would be so against this. It would be, look, the SEC and the Big Ten don't need any special favors. They have all the money. They have all the resources. They have all the exposure. They get most of the talent. Talent is going to rise. You're going to win the bleeping national champion. But why are you taking the oxygen away from everybody else? If you want to take all the oxygen, go separate. I'm not talking.
They already have taken. They already sucked.
I know, but this is too. This
and
would
got
be
ESPN.
I know, but this would be at a level in which you're automatically getting the bye. Automatically,
give it to them. They got to win. They got to win. You got to win through your bracket. There's 4 teams sitting there today that have, or tomorrow and New Year's Day that had a bye. 4 teams.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So Boise State, because of the ESPN propaganda committee, and Arizona State, because the ESPN propaganda committee automatically gets that, okay? Because that's what was agreed on, but you don't think there was in negotiations for this 12-team playoff that SEC and Big Ten were the big gorillas in the room. And you know what? Go back and look at the history, because your Mark, for all the way he was talking, all his bravado about the playoffs, guess what? He didn't get nothing. Nor did Phillips. Yeah, I'm telling you, the bias on that committee, and they're the biggest cancer to college football, period. End of story. And you know what? I hope that BYU and West Virginia and Pittsburgh would get a chance to play that number 1 seed in a bracket sometime. I really do. Let them have what they think they want. And then let's see how it plays out. Is it going to play out any differently than giving 4 buys? I don't know. And having a committee, first the committee ranks the teams. Hell, they can't rank 12 teams, for God's sake, Greg. They can't. It's proven they can't. This gets me fired up more than anything is the damn committee. And ESPN got them in their back pocket. So just let the conferences decide which 4 teams or 2 teams they're going to send. And let the committee do nothing. Have no committee. Unless you bring up good points. But I'm as passionate about 14 and having, just exactly the way I explained it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody says, well, the Big Ten and the SEC is going to end up winning it anyhow. Well, if that's the case, to hell with it. Don't even have a playoff. But of course, everybody's there to grab the money.
Mm-hmm.
So the committee's the biggest cancer, along with Notre Dame. They're a cancer in more ways than one on the college football landscape. And to hell with those guys.
Yeah.
They could sit in their ivory tower with the Big Ten and the SEC too. Hell, give Notre Dame a 3rd seed. I don't care. I don't care, Greg. Hell, give this year should have gave Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, and Notre Dame the 1 seeds. Go ahead. Go ahead. That'd be great. So,
All right, Steve, I appreciate the call, man. I appreciate the passion. Thank you, sir.
Well, I'm just sick of the crap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
have a great evening.
You too, sir. Appreciate it, my man.
Bye now.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Steve, for that great call. Larry, the GM. If anyone thought that the 14 team would not dictate buys for the SEC and the Big Ten champs, has been blind to the realities over the last 20 years.
From
Big Ten brother.
Big Ten brother. Can you hold on for a second?
No problem, Greg.
Appreciate it. I can tell you I have not been blind to the realities over the last 20 years. Number one. Number two, PATC, myself, was the one that said that USC is going to Big Ten. We broke the story nationally because of all the reasons that Oklahoma and Texas left to the SEC. Because USC wanted to get above the stratification line, the resources that it would take to compete nationally, plus the exposure, all that stuff. All that is old story. I completely my eyes are wide open to the realities. But I will not support in any way, in any fashion, WWE, where you are automatically scripted to be having a first round bye. This until you separate, until the SEC and the Big Ten completely separates. Go at it. Go for it. Go for it. Let me open the door and let me roll out the carpet for you. But until that happens, this is a 134 team FBS. 134. 9 conferences, soon to be back up to 10, with an independent program, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. To get an automatic bye, you got the resources, you got the players, you got the coaches, so you got the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes, and you got 100,000 people in the stands. You need an automatic bye in the first round because you're playing against a bunch of AAAs. Well, by the way, Georgia, 44-42, and how many overtimes? Come on, man. Look, if the Big Ten and the SEC needs to have a first round bye automatically given to them, regardless of how great a team might be in the ACC or the Big 12 or the G5, or maybe how down the SEC might be a year. By the way, they were a little down this year. I don't know if anyone noticed that. They were a little bit down this year. And the Big Ten, who has down years. But they automatically need the first round bye. What if there is a 10-3 Big Ten champion who lost to Miami, and Miami was the 13-0 ACC champion? That Big Ten team should automatically get a first round bye over Miami. So we're trying to make this sport more pure, and we're going to garbage like that. That's insanity. That's not sports. That's not sports. That's WWE. That's WWE brought to you by the SEC and the Big Ten. Boy, a lot of people would be turned off. A lot of people would be turned off. You know, this year was the most fun year in college football. This is my opinion. But I think it's been shared by many people, many people in the chat room over the season, because we didn't quite know where it was all going to land, right? We didn't quite know who was going to get the first round buys. We didn't know if the Big 12 was even going to get a first round bye. We didn't know if there was going to be 2 ACC teams. There were. We didn't know what G5. We didn't know. But let's just have it all written up before the start of the season. Let's just say 4-4, 2-2, 1-1, and let's have Whoever wins the SEC champion get a first round bye. Whoever is that Big Ten champion get a first round bye. And let's all tie it up in a neat bow before the first games are even played. Let me be very clear, and excuse my language, but that is vomit-inducing to somebody who loves college football. Go ahead, Big Ten brother. The floor is yours.
What's going on, Greg? You know what? 99 out of 100 times I see your point of view, and I agree with you. I'm like, you know what? This guy's got great perception into college football. The one thing I want to ask you about is this. At the beginning of the show, you said the Big Ten and the SEC are going to have to bend the knee to Notre Dame. They're going to have to give them that AQ. Well, wait a minute. How are you so upset if the SEC and the Big Ten want an AQ after playing a conference championship game and being the champion, but you're okay with Notre Dame not playing a conference championship and they should get an AQ? I'm
not okay with that. I'm not okay with Notre Dame. I'm sorry. Explain once again what you mean. I think we got our wires crossed. Go ahead. Say it again.
Well, at the beginning of the show, you said that the Notre Dame our Big Ten and SEC will have to bend the Notre Dame knee to Notre Dame because of the way they're going to do it. As far as like, okay, we're just going to go ahead and go rankings. If Notre Dame is ranked third, they're going to get an AQ because they're ranked third. Without playing a conference championship, they just want to use the ranking. I don't see how anybody would be okay with that. They're risking nothing. They're off that week. They get to heal up. They get to chill out. I don't understand how you said that they have to bend the knee to Notre Dame and let them have an AQ if they're 12-0 and they're ranked 12th. I just don't see how you're upset with the Big Ten and the SEC if the teams go 12-1 and they expect a number 1 or a number 2 seed after going 12-1, and Notre Dame goes 12-0 or 11-1. Let's say 11-1, and they're ranked number 3rd. But you're okay if Notre Dame gets the AQ because they're ranked number 3rd.
I'm not okay with. I am not okay with Notre Dame getting an automatic first round bye in a 12-team format. I'm not okay with that. I like it the way it is. Conference champions, only conference champions can get a first round bye. The top 4 ranked conference champions get a first round bye. The 5th top ranked conference champion gets an automatic berth with the other 4, but the 4 top ranked conference champions get an automatic bye. Notre Dame cannot get that first round bye. Because they cannot be a conference champion. And now suddenly we're going to change it to where it's just going to be rankings, seedings, and now Notre Dame can have their cake and eat it too, the frosting, and they're drinking everybody's milkshake if it changes.
Right. And I think, like at the beginning of the show, when you said the Big Ten and SEC will have to bend the knee to Notre Dame, meaning, hey, if Notre Dame comes in 3rd, they're going to get that bye. They're going to have to bend the knee to them. If they're 12-0, they're going to get one of those. They're going to get a bye the first week. And I'm like, why? No, they won't, because they still don't play here.
But if they change the rules where you don't have to be a conference champion, Notre Dame, if Notre Dame goes 12-0, and maybe sometimes 11-1, depending on their schedule, who they beat, who they lost, was it a close loss, whatever. But if Notre Dame is going 12-0, they're going to be one of the top 4 ranked teams in the country, and now they're going to get a first round bye without having to sacrifice themselves, without having to play that conference championship game. In other words, Notre Dame once again comes out of this smelling like roses. They get the most to gain from it if they change it.
I don't see that happening, because now, like you said, that just changed the argument a little bit when you said, forget about, let's just go off rankings only. Let's forget about conference championships. Let's just go off rankings.
Okay, Notre Dame. Were you here when I did the Brett McMurphy article?
No, I just listened to the
Okay,
beginning
so
of the
I
show.
went through, go back to the start of the monologue. I went through the Brett McMurphy Action Network article that explained that momentum is happening right now to change it with rankings. Instead of conference champions get an automatic bye, it would be the top 4 ranked teams in a 12-team playoff to get an automatic bye. That is
Okay,
why I'm saying
you know what?
that everyone's
Yeah.
bending the knee to the Irish again.
Right. Okay, I get what you, because I caught it where you said the SEC, the Big Ten, have to bend the knee to the Irish, and I'm thinking, why? Why would they have to bend? Because here, if they're going to go off just rankings, Greg, like, okay, after 12 games, the end of the year, forget the conference championship. This is right after the end of the year. And if you have a Big Ten team that's Oregon, 12-0, and then you have a team that's 11-1, let's say Ohio State, and then you have Notre Dame, who's 12-0, but they're finished. Do you think for 1 minute that Ohio State, who's going into that conference championship game, is going to rank dropping down 4? Look at their rank days now. They might be the best team in college football, and they have the number 8 seed.
Okay.
This is messed up.
But,
this is messed up.
Okay.
This is messed up.
But,
Go ahead.
Okay. But if they change it, this is what it means. This would mean that the top 2 Big Ten teams play in the conference championship game. The top 2 teams play in the SEC conference championship game. The top 2 Big 12 teams will play in the conference championship game. The top 2 ACC teams play in the championship game.
Right.
You got G6 conference championship games going on. They're all trying to be the 5th top-ranked conference champion to get at least an automatic berth. All that is happening while Notre Dame is sitting at home. Now, the compromise, the great Henry Clay compromise was, okay, Notre Dame sits at home during the CCGs, but they're not going to get a first-round bye.
Right.
But if they change the rules, now it's Notre Dame gets to sit out the CCG. If they're top 4 ranked teams, they're not going to even risk losing. They're not even in a CCG, and they're going to get a first round bye. They're going to get 2 weeks off.
I got you.
It's all roses for Notre Dame once again. If they keep
but you know what, Greg? Then I'll let you go after this.
Yeah.
They're never going to allow it where Notre Dame gets a week off. And then they get a reward for having that week off. Like, well, we're going to jump them over the loser of the Ohio State Oregon Conference Championship game. They'll stop playing the conference championship games before they allow Notre Dame to leapfrog from 6 to number 2 because they sat at home. They'll stop playing why play it'll turn into the bowl games where players will be like, oh, I'm not interested in playing. We're not going to play. Like, teams will turn it down. Like, hey, you guys want to play the conference Ohio State? No, we're 12-0. Why would we want to play in that game? We're sitting at number 2 right now. We're not playing in that game. And that's what it's going to turn into if they reward Notre Dame. You know why I get tired of Notre Dame? And I'll let you go after this, Greg. I get wherever Notre Dame go, they get the luck of the Irish and the leprechaun. They sat at the head of the table of the Big East. They left the Big East and crashed. Then they come to the ACC. If they join the ACC, you know what? They might have saved that conference. We might not have Florida State. They might not be going through all this stuff. But does Notre Dame join the ACC? Do they make an unselfish move to help out? No, of course not. Let's watch the ACC crack. If I'm the Big Ten of the SEC, I'm telling Notre Dame, take a hike. You're bad luck. You crashed 2 conferences. We don't want you anywhere near us.
Yeah, I hear it, Big Ten, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy, I got to go. Later.
Thank you, good man. Thank you. Helmer Hennessy, Mr. Wolverines. ESPN owns the playoffs and will make sure SEC teams are overrepresented. If at all possible, there's a conflict of interest. Thank you, Mr. Wolverine, for the super chat. Thank you so much for the generosity. Appreciate it. Helping us keep the lights on here December 30th. You know what, Henderson, Mr. Henderson, and Jose, and Bimba, and the Big Lubbock?
All from
Rick?
Rick, can you hold on for 1 second?
You bet.
I just want to make this clear. What bothers me the most about all of this is whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Rod Nix, Larry the GM, Sandra Green, the Black Rain, Christopher Shannon, John Boxleitner, Helmer Henderson, Go Black 45, the Big Lubbock, Lonnie, Ed D. No matter if you agree with or disagree, what I am most upset about all this is, and this, we are so hypersensitive to the results on the field. It is getting like 4 minutes into the Indiana Notre Dame game. 4 minutes into it. Go back to my watch party. We had a PATC watch party playoff game, Indiana Notre Dame. 4 minutes in, the chat room was littered with Indiana should not have made it. Big Ten sucks. This, that, SMU sucked. It just went on and on and on. And we shouldn't have these two. It should only go by strength of schedule, blah, 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 blah. 4 minutes into the first game, we are, according to Brett McMurphy's, sources have said that there is momentum to change the seedings. And ladies and gentlemen, we are 4 games in to an 11-game playoff. We don't eat. Four teams haven't even played. We don't even know the consequences. We don't have any data points on how the teams do when they have a first-round bye. We know basically absolutely nothing, and we are making these incredible, large, overriding decisions based upon so very little data. That is what bothers me more than anything else. We're not, it's almost like we cannot just watch the playoffs. It's just, go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Oh, no worries. I appreciate your passion. I personally don't share it, but that's okay. And the reason I don't share it is
it's okay. Absolutely.
The reason I don't share it is because I've got no control over it. I've got no vote. I've got no say. I got nothing. The power brokers are going to decide how many playoffs there's going to be. You know, how many conferences are getting AQs or not. You know, we're just sitting back here watching what the power brokers do. So why lose sleep over it? You can't control it. But I did want to call about last night's show.
Yes.
If I can. I'm trying to get an understanding of how you put it. I think I've got it. There's a coalition of the willing in the Big 12 who are up for private equity. And there's also a coalition of the willing in the ACC.
Yes.
That are up for private equity.
Yes.
And then there is the leftovers, I'll call them, in the Big 12 and the leftovers in the ACC who are skeptical, unwilling, whatever you want to call it right now, to do that. It appears to me that the power here is with Bubba and the group of the coalition of the willing in the ACC and Mr. X, whomever that is in the Big 12 and the coalition of the willing, are both flexing their muscles at their commissioners, respectively, and telling their commissioner, get on board or we're getting out. We're going to join together and do our thing and leave you behind. Have I got that right?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. Yep.
So that the two commissioners are under a deep amount of pressure. I mean, heavy-duty pressure here. Because if the coalition of the willing does as they're suggesting and breaks off, let's say with the Big 12, Yormark won't be their boss. He'll be the boss of the leftovers. And Jim Phillips will be the boss of the ACC leftovers. Right?
I mean, in theory, I don't think it would ever happen in practice. But I understand what you're saying.
You don't
It's
think
kinda,
in practice...
the threat of that money, that big, large money sitting on the outside of the room right now, sort of possibly could devalue, take power out of the commissioner's hands and the current media companies that run college football right now, a little bit of power out of their hands as the years go on and on and on. I would agree with that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Because of what they're signing up for when they sign away their, we'll call it their rights to private equity.
Yeah.
Wow. So, like in Yormark's case, it would be a matter of him trying to get the ones who aren't willing to get on board, or is he trying to put out the fire of the ones who are talking about breaking away?
Both. Well, I don't think it isn't so much. Yeah, I really can't get it. I'm going to go only this far. He's trying to get everybody on board for a conference level type of deal or deals.
Well, yeah, I would think, obviously, that would be the case, but whoever is, well, I'm only going with Bubba from the ACC because he seems to be the ringleader from that side. Mm-hmm. But he seems to be saying, well, yeah, I got 8 teams here in the ACC, and I got 8 friends over in the Big 12, and we can get together and do our thing without you. And that's really powerful.
I don't really think this is about Big 12 teams hitching up with ACC teams and going off and doing their own thing with private equity.
Okay.
Because you still have the Gore, you still have the Granorites, you still have...
Absolutely. I was heading down that road.
So
yep.
It's more of a, hey, if we can't do this if we can't get this done at a conference level, some of these teams like in the Big 12, then we're going to do it as a school level, and or we're also going to push for even a larger scope possibility in where the Big 12 and the ACC sort of kind of does this together. Doing the Super League but not involving the Big Ten and the SEC. Super League investment. So there are different ways of people pushing different options to bring this big money in and their big contacts in to help with these institutions. So more options, factions are forming, and there's some cross-pollination going on.
Okay, I'll leave you with this, if you can possibly speculate. If this materializes, the private equity,
Yep.
the Big Ten and the SEC aren't going to stand pat on it.
No idea. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard any of them being associated with anything to do with private equity, but I would have no idea.
I can't believe they would stand pat.
I mean, stand pat with private equity or stand pat with expansion? Because they can't.
Stand pat and allow the private equity to go into the Big 12 and the ACC,
Yeah,
which I'm thinking would, well, for lack of knowledge, quadruple their current money, maybe more.
I don't know. I don't. Yeah, and there is, and that's what's driving all this. It's fear. Just take the Big Ten and the SEC out of it for a moment, even though you brought that in. But just to take that out of it for a moment, there is fear in the Big 12 that some schools are going to go alone and do this, and other Big 12 schools are not. Same thing with the ACC, although it's more difficult for an ACC school to get a deal at a school level. So there is this okay, I mean, we don't want to be left behind, so let's do it at the conference level. So there's a lot of that going on, because what happens if it is incredibly successful? Well, now you've just and you're not on board. Now you've just
you're toast.
You just shot yourself. Yeah. So
you would almost be better off leaving the conference and going to a lower one, maybe a G5, in the hopes of getting a private equity deal there.
Yeah.
That's why I called them the leftovers, because you don't want to be a leftover.
Yeah.
But I just can't believe the Big Ten and the SEC aren't going to vigorously react to this happening in the Big 12 and the ACC. They're going to do something big.
Okay.
That will spur them to do something bigger.
It could. I don't really have I don't have any thoughts on it. No speculation either, because I haven't had any of those conversations.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time.
You got it. I appreciate it, my man. Great call once again.
Yeah. Bye.
Beautiful. There was Jose. Reports are out there that ESPN is striping players of a star in their rating if they don't commit to an SEC school. Well, I can tell you this. Philip Daniels, the starting right tackle of the Gophers for the last 4 games, he went in the portal and he went to Ohio State, which everybody knew he was going to Ohio State even before he went in the portal. I wonder why that was. Number one. Number two is I just saw a ranking, a 247 ranking which is owned by CBS, and Philip Daniels is considered, hold on,
Call from
Replica.
Replica. Can you hold on for one moment?
Go ahead.
I appreciate it. And Philip Daniels is rated by 247 CBS Sports as the fourth highest rated offensive tackle in the portal. Are you kidding me? I mean, are you like, Philip Daniels started 4 games at the end of his redshirt freshman season. He did okay. His grades weren't all that great. One of his games, he did absolutely horrible. It's a decent pickup for the Buckeyes. That's his home around the Cincinnati area. He always wanted to play for the Buckeyes, but he's rated really high. But why? When I saw the report of that, I talked to. It doesn't matter who I talked to. It was one of those examples where, like, you know, if this young man, an emerging player, I don't know if he's even going to play for the Buckeyes next year, to be honest with you. If he would have went to somebody, like if he would have went to Cincinnati, if he would have went to pretty much anywhere else, he would not be rated number 4. So it's not just SEC, it's Big Ten. Man, those rankings, I don't pay attention to them. I just, you know, they're very difficult to take seriously, those rankings. Go ahead, Replica. The floor is yours.
All right, do I sound good? I'm driving right now, so I don't want to.
You sound good, my man.
Okay. I originally wanted to talk about the playoff format.
Yep.
But I'm glad you brought this topic up about recruiting. And here's the thing that people need to understand. These recruiting services are for-profit businesses. So naturally, they're going to cater to the schools with the biggest fan bases and those who are perceived as blue bloods. This has been going on for years. I think a great example of this, if you look at any player Colorado is entertained, they automatically drop a star. Juju Lewis committed to USC for over a year, was a clear top 20 player. The moment they saw him take an OB to Colorado, all of a sudden he's a 4-star. He's not a top 100 player. Colorado has a kid from my hometown, Fort Worth, Texas, named Quentin Gibson, a 5'8" wide receiver, a bit undersized. He's a late bloomer. They have him listed as a 3-star player. He is the best player in the state of Texas. 93 catches, 2,009 yards, 36 receiving touchdowns, which is the DFW record, number 4 all-time in the state, 39 total touchdowns. So when you see players with obvious production and they're not going to those perceived big brand schools or blue bloods, they're going to dock them because that's not what the narrative is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Those kind of schools aren't supposed to be able to get the best talent, so they're going to dock their rankings. You have to look at football with your eyes, and you have to understand that these recruiting services are essentially grifters. They're grifters trying to profit off of the biggest fan bases who are willing to pay for those subscriptions.
Good point.
247 is owned by CBS. Who is CBS invested in?
Yeah.
Big Ten.
Yeah.
On3 partners with ESPN on NIL evaluations. Who is ESPN investing in? What's their primary investment? The SEC. So, as far as recruiting rankings and stuff goes, don't take any of that stuff seriously. I watched Texas have top 5, top 10 classes for 15 years. We couldn't win anything. Texas A&M had the number 1 class 3 years in a row. They haven't even been to the SEC championship game. So, don't take that kind of stuff seriously. We know it exists, but at the end of the day, you have to look at the game with your eyes.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about this format because I think people are kind of missing the point as usual. This isn't about propping up Notre Dame. They're the benefactors, of course, and if they make a change where conference champion, you don't have to be a conference champion to get a bye. You can kiss whatever chance of them joining a conference goodbye. there's literally no incentive for them to do so at that point if they can get a bye without playing in the conference. And not only that, they wouldn't have to play conference championship game weekend. They're not going to play in the first round. So you're talking about giving Notre Dame, 3 weeks to a month to prepare for a playoff game where other teams are playing? It's nonsense. Like, I have no idea why we continue to give Notre Dame special treatment. They haven't won anything in my lifetime, and I know they haven't won the national championship since the 80s. So is their brand really that much bigger than everybody else's that they should get preferential treatment? No. But because we don't have real adults in the room who are concerned about the best interest of the sport, these are the results you're going to get. Like, everything is self-serving. The reason why they want to eliminate conference champions so they can stick as many SEC teams in those bye spots as they can. And occasionally, if you have a team like an Ohio State or a Penn State that has a great season, they'll throw them a bone. But this is about protecting the SEC. And look at what they're facing right now. Like, their golden brand right now, Georgia, is probably going to lose here in a couple of days to Notre Dame. And then you're going to have one SEC team left that came over from the Big 12, and all these fan bases like Kentucky and Mississippi State and all these other like teams who haven't won anything, talking about how tough the SEC is. We came in there and whooped all of them. So they're trying to protect the original brands in those conferences, and they don't care what the collateral damage is. Just like you said earlier in the call, they're trying to turn this into WWE where it's all scripted as who gets in and who plays who, and that's when they'll really start promoting it and trying to make this the best it can be. Because if you notice, ESPN is doing little to no promotion outside of for the playoff, outside of like arguments between Shannon Sharp and Kirk Herbstreit having words, or bringing in Cam Newton to talk about how nobody wants to watch schools outside the SEC because they're not as good. What people like Cam don't realize is that the SEC that he played in 10, 15 years ago doesn't exist. Now, that doesn't mean the SEC is the best conference, but the gap, they keep trying to tell us that the gap is getting wider and wider, even though our eyes and the results on the field say otherwise. So that's what this is about, and they're going to keep destroying this sport further and further until we get a WWE-type playoff where it's 60% SEC and 30% Big Ten and maybe a Notre Dame or Miami if they're undefeated. But they don't want to. These people don't like college football.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people in the comment section who are very arrogant and like ride the coattails of a conference, they don't like college football either. They just like the dopamine rush that they get from trying to feel superior over somebody else. Because I watch some of these people in the comment section. Their schools haven't won anything. Like Larry the GM is a fellow Texas fan calling somebody another school AAA. We were a AAA school not before Sark walked through the door. Did you forget that? Did you forget we was playing in the Holiday Bowl? We're starting guys like David Ash and Tyrone Swoops and Gerard Hurd, all these bust quarterbacks that we used to have. What if all this stuff had happened 10 years ago when Texas was down and people were calling us a AAA school? You wouldn't like that. But again, there's so much arrogance that is coming to the sport over the last few years, and that's what they're catering to because those people are the loudest. Even though they're a minority, they're the loudest. So they can ESPN can point to and say, see, this person is saying they want this. They don't want to see this team, non-SEC team. They want to see South Carolina. They want to see Ole Miss. Or honestly, the way this is going is they're not going to be satisfied until we get like a 2014 semi-pro, like Walmart version of the NFL, where they just pick the brands. It's not even going to be about the results or anything like that. It's really sad that we don't have better leadership in the sport, but you know, it kind of is what it is. And as far as what Rick was saying about the SEC and the Big Ten taking action, like what are they going to do if the other conferences get involved in private equity? Like, honestly, what can they do besides either break away, which they're trying to do that already. They just don't want to deal with the blowback of it, or they can try to add some of those schools. But I've been saying this for about a year now. There's not that many spots left in these conferences.
No.
In those two conferences, like, people act like this is going to be some 24 teams on one side and 24 teams on the other side, and this is just like imperialism. They're just going to collect all of the valuable properties. No. That's not the way this is going to go down. The SEC is already having problems from bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. If Texas and Oklahoma is still in the Big 12, Alabama will be in a playoff right now. Do people not really just sit back and think about stuff like this? A school like a South Carolina could have been in the playoffs if Texas wasn't in the SEC. And that's where the long-term problems is going to come from, bringing in all these big brands, is that everybody can't be a winner. There has to be losers in all this. And none of these schools feel like they should be the one getting the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue this graph of power. And honestly, all of this stuff is socialization, as they were saying earlier this year, about what they're going to do for 26 and beyond, because I don't see them making a drastic change like that and bought in unless they redistribute how the money goes around.
And that's another thing, Replica. Another thing. First of all, beautiful call. Beautiful call. Thank you, Replica. And there's another reason why I selfishly do not want the playoffs to change from 24 to 25, because we all know it's going to change in 2026. We all know it's going to change in 2026. We know that. We know that, first of all, because nothing's been settled for 2026. All the compromising and signing the dotted line and crossing the T's, that was 24 and 25. The only thing we know for the college football playoffs from 26 to 2031 is that the top 5 conference champions, five top-ranked conference champions are going to get an automatic berth. We know nothing else. That is the protection to get everybody to vote on it to 2031. But 2026, we do not know anything else. So we're going to get a change in 2026. So what are we going to do? We have this 2024 replica, this 12-team playoff format. We've had 4 games. Everybody and a lot of people absolutely lost their heads over the first 4 games. And now we're going to change it in 25. And then we're going to change it again in 26. I mean, that's ridiculous. Can't we just leave it alone for 25 and then change it one more time for 2026 to 2031? Go ahead, sir. Finish up your call. Beautiful call, Replica.
Can people actually just enjoy the sport? Like, act like you enjoy watching college football. Like, I don't want to keep changing. We're already becoming too much like the NFL. Like, I got to watch the NFC South host a playoff game here in a couple of weeks. Like, that's nonsense. Like, why? I'm telling you, Greg, these people don't like college football. They like the attention and the things that they can get from it. But I mean, why? We don't even know how this is going to play out.
Yeah, we don't even know how it's going to play out. We know nothing.
Like, we could. Yeah. For all we know, next year we could have 4 banger first round games, and people will probably still be playing.
Yes. Yep.
Like, it's nonsense. But again, this is what happens when you don't have leadership. And you don't have people in the room who want what's best for the entire sport. It just becomes a game of self-preservation. And right now, the SEC, this is not going the way Greg Sankey and ESPN thought it would. They thought when they got us 12 teams, hey, we'll bring in an Ohio State, a Penn State, an Oregon for the ratings, but we want this to mostly be about us, and that's not how it's going down. And for anybody who who thinks like the SEC is just so much superior to everybody else, I just want to leave this comment for perspective and then I'll hang up. There was a point in time where the SEC had so many legendary coaches in the conference at the same time, from Nick Saban, Alabama, to Les Miles at LSU, Urban Meyer at Florida, Steve Spurrier at South Carolina. Like, you had like elite coaches who had done it at the highest level. Like, you look around the SEC right now, who's the great coach with pelts on the wall besides Kirby? And I love Sark. I think he's going to get there eventually, but he ain't there yet. And hey, if you want to put him in that conversation, cool. Kirby Smart, Steve Sarkisian, and then you got a couple of young coaches who might become great coaches one day in Heupel and Beamer in South Carolina. Outside of that, look at the coaches in this conference, mediocre. The product in the SEC is mediocre right now. Like, it's the worst it's been in my lifetime, and people keep telling us that the gap is getting bigger. That's just not reality. So, that's enough rain for me. I'm gonna try to enjoy the games on Wednesday.
Okay. Well, if you are free, join us tomorrow night. We're doing a watch party, Penn State, Boise State.
Okay.
All righty, man.
Yeah, I'll definitely try to make it.
Legendary call, Replica. Legendary call. Thank you, sir.
One more thing. Sam Levitt kind of poked the bear talking about Quinn. He's going to have a big game.
Oh, did he? What did he say? I did not hear it.
It was, I didn't watch the whole clip, but it was kind of like, you know how it is when like players aren't used to getting that kind of attention and they have that kind of edge. He's like, I'm going to prove I'm the better quarterback.
Oh.
And my whole thing is like, you're way younger than Quinn. You weren't playing high school football at the same time as Quinn. Like, Quinn is a made man, like South Lake Carroll legend, like that. When you see like him not being fazed by the noise and stuff like that, it's because he's been dealing with it his whole life. So I don't understand where that jealousy came from. It feels kind of weird, but we'll see.
All right,
the game
man.
will be played.
Appreciate it. Great call.
Absolutely.
From
Larry the GM.
Larry the GM, Mr. Longhorn, he's getting ready for the Saturday big game against the Sun Devils. The floor is yours.
All right, Greg. So I know you're mad at me.
I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. Not at all. Absolutely not.
I am trying to share the perspective that I think the SEC leadership has. Okay, and we can argue whether or not it's right or wrong. But Greg, let's settle on one thing, because I know you know this. The conference that pushed the hardest for automatic qualifiers is the Big Ten.
Yes.
And the SEC commissioner at that time said, I don't need any automatic qualifiers because I don't want to be limited by automatic qualifiers, because I think I could put more than 4 teams consistently in the tournament, in the playoff.
Correct.
Okay. So everybody that blames the SEC for the automatic qualifier business, they're shooting at the wrong target.
I have when but let's make this clear. I'm just talking from a PATC perspective. I am the dude that has gone after the Big Ten on it. I am the one, we broke it. I said I didn't want it. I said as a college football fan, I didn't want it. I said all those things many times over. In fact, I'm not going to say his name. I had a BYU Cougar fan here that was part of the PATC family. Came on here, called me up, talked about how stupid this was, and then laced me in a DM later on. And I had to remind the gentleman, I said over and over again, I'm against it. What I did is we broke the news. I did not say I was for it. I absolutely agree with you. Big Ten is going to
Okay,
push
and Greg,
it. I think they're going to get it because I said on September 9th, because of their media partners want it, and that the SEC not necessarily was for it, the Big Ten was going to have to get them on board. I absolutely agree with that part of what you're saying. What I do
okay,
disagree,
now Greg.
what I do
Okay,
disagree.
well, Greg,
Go ahead.
hang on.
Go ahead, sir.
So part of what I've been trying to say is like, guys, you can be mad about this, but this is what's going to happen.
I agree.
Okay, so I think, Greg, and you start going back to, I'm about 20 minutes behind the live show, Greg. So
no problem.
My comments were probably 20 minutes behind where you really were. But so you got a phone call and it was talking about like, hey, this is what he thought was going to happen. There's going to be a 14-team CFP, and the Big Ten and the SEC are going to demand a number one seed out of the two sides of that bracket.
Okay.
Now, Greg, you and I you passionately argued against that.
Yes.
But the realities are, they gave the SEC and the Big Ten 59% of the vote. So that will happen. That will happen.
Okay. It might happen. But I am going to. I'm gonna warn you, Larry the Jim. I'm gonna warn you, Rock and Rant, Expedition Greg, Rowan Phillips, Kalani L, Michael Smith, Rod Nix. I'm gonna warn you. The Big Ten pushing for 4 automatic qualifiers, where the SEC gets 4 automatic qualifiers, for the Big 12 getting 2, the ACC getting 2, 1 qualifier for the G5, and 1 being at large. I don't like it, but I understand the motivations. I get that the Big Ten and the SEC have accumulated the chips. They have the power, and they're not going to sit idly by and not use the power. They're going to do it. Okay. That is something that I'm going to squawk at as a college football fan. But as PATC, we were the ones that broke the 4 qualifying things, so we understand it. However, all that being said, you're going to go to the next level of WWE, and you're going to give, if it's a 14-team playoffs, and you're giving the automatic 2 byes to the conference champion of the Big Ten and the SEC, I am going to rail on that almost every single night for the next month after that if that passes. That is absolutely ridiculous. Because, Larry the GM, there are going to be times that a Big Ten champion during the non-conference schedule is going to be defeated by the Big 12 champion or the ACC champion. And they're going to have the better team. And we're going to have the Big Ten have a first round bye, and same thing with the SEC champion. I mean, my God, the SEC champion this year went how many overtimes against Georgia Tech? We cannot have automatic. It cannot be just handed over to the Big Ten and the SEC. No way, no how. That is my stance on it, and I am not going to back down on that. But I understand if you disagree, I'm not mad at you. I'm just saying, oh boy, there's going to be a nuclear explosion in the studio if that happens. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, but Greg, I mean, Georgia's a great example, right? Because Georgia is vulnerable to one type of offense, and that is exactly the offense that Georgia Tech had with the running quarterback. I think that's their kryptonite. And Greg, Georgia is like the second highest. I mean, by Vegas odds, aren't they way up there as like most likely to win the NCAA championship? I mean, I think Texas won. I'm not saying that because I'm a Texas fan. But I think Georgia's either 2 or 3.
That might be true, but that has nothing to do with who deserves
But
the number one, who deserves the first round bye.
It would not be a crime against humanity if that Georgia team that went to 8 overtime was actually get the 1 seed because they turned around from that game after losing that game. If they turn around and beat Texas, because Texas doesn't have the winning quarterback,
Okay.
Unless they play the backup, then then we would have to live in that reality. I think so. Let me the perspective of the SEC. I believe leadership is when we are forced to go to 9-game schedule. If our champion is 9-3, we still think that champion's better than the 11-1 team that
maybe it
know
will
it's
be.
snarky. I know it.
Maybe
I know
it will be, but maybe
guys.
it won't be. But you've got to let the possibility. You've got to let the possibility that it may not be. What if Georgia Tech would have went 11-1 this year and defeated Georgia? Then Georgia Tech should get Georgia. Look, I saw Josh Pate put up a tweet saying, and I like Josh Pate, but he put up a tweet and said something to the effect of, I'm paraphrasing it, but I'm going to get really close. Josh Pate said, if you guys are waiting around, Cinderella is never going to happen in the college football playoffs. And my answer to him was, never is a very long time. Of course there's going to be a Cinderella in college football playoffs. You can't say never. You can't say always. You cannot say always the top 2 teams in college football is going to be a Big Ten team and an SEC team, even with all the advantages, the resources, everything. You cannot possibly say that's automatically true. So why don't you let the possibility of a non-SEC team and Big Ten team have a first round bye? This it doesn't. It goes against.
The short answer to that is the media companies are going to demand it, right? That's the short answer is the media companies are going to demand that the SEC and the Big Ten have that bye. I
don't think they will. I don't think they, I'm not necessarily buying that either. I'm not. They're demanding certainty that 4 teams get in. They want the conference race. They want, but they got 4 teams in the playoffs. That's what they want. I think, all I'm saying from my own Larry the Jam, from my own perspective, that is a bridge. Not only is it a bridge too far to automatically have the SEC and the Big Ten teams have the two buys. I think that's like 6 bridges too far. I think you're gonna, and I warned everybody. Larry the GM, you were with me. I warned everybody not to hyperventilate, overreact in the first round playoffs. That at some time an SEC team is going to get whooped in the first round, and a large SEC team is going to get whooped, and the SC and the talking points were going to get shattered. What happened? I'm telling you, not every year going forward, not every year is it going to be clear that a Big Ten and the SEC teams are the 2 best teams in the country. And when it happens, what are people going to say then? Oh, well, golly gee whiz, we were just trying to make this sport pure. No, you weren't. If you want to make this sport pure, which is stupid anyways, it's got to be open for anybody to get the top 2 buys in a 14-team playoffs. It's got to be open to everybody. Not to mention, you're going to get your ass sued. That's another equation to this. This is ridiculous. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, but correct. They agreed to the 59% vote total for the SEC and the Big Ten.
They did. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're the ACC commissioner and you're the Big 12 commissioner, and you are offered their automatic seeding is the number 2 seed in the 7 seed bracket. In other words, they get the most optimal of all the teams that are not in not getting the bye, I think they're going to jump on that, Greg. They're going to jump on the opportunity. Well, we will get the best spot. Greg, I think the committee is almost going away in this. I think you're going to get a seeding of, and this is where I don't really understand the framing. This is all great for Notre Dame, because I think Notre Dame's going to be pushed down into like, hey, if you don't get in a conference, you're not guaranteed anything, because the first six of the 7 slots and each one of these brackets are guaranteed to the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC. So you better get in. And you're not going to get a high seed. You're going to end up like the 5th or 6th seed in that bracket, as in that large. That's where they're going to put the G5 and the Notre Dames of it all. But Greg, let's talk about Cinderella for me. I know I'm going long, Greg. I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
I have got so many things to cover with you. All right, Cinderella, Greg. Let's talk about Cinderella.
Yeah, and you know who I got as the Cinderella baby? Did you watch yesterday's show?
Greg, I was at my daughter's house for her birthday, so I missed.
I've got Arizona State, baby. I got Arizona State.
I know. You're poking the bear. You're poking the bear down, Greg.
Go ahead, sir.
No, but I mean, this so everybody's clear. I think the 2 best teams in this tournament are Oregon and Ohio State. To me, it was absolutely zero surprise that Ohio State boat raced Tennessee. That was not a surprise, because I actually think if you say who is the one team that should win this thing, it should be Ohio State. Now that was hard to see when they lost to Michigan, but that's who I think is the best team in the tournament. Now, Greg, as far as Cinderella in the NCAA basketball tournament, what is the profile for the Cinderella team that actually plays in the Final Four or actually wins the tournament? And for me, that's Villanova. That was like a 5th place team in the Big East, which was the best basketball conference at the time. The best Cinderellas the true Cinderellas that won it all in the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament, have been teams that started off slow, didn't have a great record in their conference, and like South Carolina would be a Cinderella in the football terms. That's what the basketball Cinderellas look like. And I'm telling you, Cinderella in the 14-team tournament that has 4 SEC teams and 4 Big Ten teams is probably going to look like South Carolina. They're going to be a team that gets super hot, gets it together, their young players step up, and they go into the playoff super, super hot. Now, Arizona, you can say Arizona State fits that profile too. It's just that we're going to find out a lot about Arizona State on the first. That's we'll find out.
Okay.
But
okay.
One more thing, Greg.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Then I'm going to let you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going on. Last 11 years of the 14 playoff. Okay, you go back and you apply the rules of the 12-team tournament, right? So if you say like in these years, who would the committee have put in the tournament based on the rankings they had? 32.6% of the teams would have been from the Big Ten. 29.5% of the teams would have been from the SEC. You know what those numbers look eerily like, Ray? They look eerily like the percentage of the voting, the revenue that those 2 conferences got.
Yep.
And I think it's not a coincidence. In other words, they back calculated who would have been in this 12-team tournament, and they got the revenue and they got the voting share associated with that. And the ACC was at 12.9, the Big 12 was at 14.4. That's what the percentage split would have been of the teams that are now in those conferences, where how they would have seeded out in those previous 11 years. I know Texas, when they went into last year, was not a member of the SEC. I'm saying the SEC gets credit for that in the calculation I did. All right. So if you look at that, that's the way that I believe that they were looking at those numbers when they put this tournament. And so, Greg, that's an average of 3.9 teams per year for the Big 10, and 3.5 teams per year for the SEC, 1.5 for the ACC, and 1.7 for the Big 12. That's why it's going to be a 4-4-2-2. They're all going to say this is what it would have been for the last 12 years. We send it out to 14. Those numbers will escalate to basically 4, 4, 2, and 2. And that's why they're going to get that. I think, you're saying that Notre Dame's coming out like a rose today. I think Notre Dame's being set up for the fall, because when they go to a 14-team tournament that has 2 byes, those are not going to be available to Notre Dame no matter what, unless they get into the Big Ten or into the SEC or the Big Ten. And the realities are they're going to get screwed over by the seeding table that they put out there. That's where I think we're headed, Greg. And that's because I think the SEC, whether we like it or not, the SEC and the Big Ten have a vote, and they have control of what this tournament is going to look like in 2026 and beyond.
Up until a point, yes, they do. They don't have total.
And everything I described.
Why?
Yeah, well, in 2026 for 2026 beyond, they can say that they can say, hey, well, I think they're going to be able to go to the Big 12 and the ACC. Do you want the number 2 seed? Do you want the number 5 seed in your bracket? And they're going to jump on it.
Alrighty, sir. All right, Larry the Jam. Appreciate it. Great call,
All right,
my
thank
man.
you. Thank you, Greg.
You got
Happy
it.
New Year.
No, I'm not mad at Larry the Jam. I appreciate his call. I appreciate him being part of the PATC family. And I completely understand why the Big Ten and the SEC are going to go after those 4 automatic qualifiers, and it was the Big Ten pushing it. We were the one that broke the story, so I understand the story. I understand everything around it. But I'm drawing the line at you're giving an automatic first round bye to the SEC champion, the Big Ten champion, in a 14-team playoff. I think it's probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in college sports. You don't see that anywhere in any sport. You do not see the Big Ten volleyball's champion get an automatic number 1 seed in the volleyball tournament, even though they're great, even though that's the best conference. You don't see the SEC baseball get an automatic. A lot of them are number 1 in their pods, but they got to play it out. You don't automatically get it. You don't automatically give Penn State number 1 wrestling of the Big Ten because of Penn State, and before that, you don't do that. That isn't sports. And if you want to do it, then separate yourselves. Number 1. Number 2, when it comes to the profile of Cinderella in college football playoffs. Larry GM made a comment, what is the Cinderella of the college basketball Cinderella team? They're usually the 4th or 5th place team of a power conference or the Big East, the big whatever. All that is fine. But we don't know the profile of college football Cinderella. We don't have a clue because we are 4 games into the first 12-team playoffs. And that is my point. We know jack bleep of what is going to happen. We don't know having a first round bye. We don't know if Arizona State is the Cinderella profile, a team that has come on strong late into the season. Sam Levitt growing up before our very eyes, a redshirt freshman. We don't know the profiles of having a Boise State and Heisman runner-up and Ashton Genty when Penn State had to play the week. We don't know anything. That's my point. Can't we just do the playoffs? and do it. And I would like to do it again, replicate it all for 2025, and then have your big change in 2026, where the Big Ten and the SEC are going to make their power move. But we're not going to get that, are we? We're not going to get that, are we? And of course, I'm talking about it from my perspective, just like Larry GM is talking from his perspective, and everybody else is talking from their perspective. I finally got what I wanted. I got what I wanted. In college football, I got what I wanted. This is the playoff format that I wanted. And it's all going away. The Minnesota Vikings play the Detroit Lions. One of those two teams is going to lose this weekend. One of those two teams is going to drop to a 5 seed. There's no injustice in that. None whatsoever. Divisional incentive for divisional championship is important. The ratings are going to be higher. Everything's going to be higher for the Detroit Lions Viking game. This year it happens to be in the NFC North division. Sometimes it happens in the AFC East division. Usually the NFC East division was on top, and back and forth. And I know that college football conferences are not the same thing as NFL divisions because the NFL has more parity. I get it. I ain't stupid. But we still have to leave open the possibility that there's going to be a giant ACC team that comes along. A giant Big 12 team that comes along. And they are most definitely one of the top two teams in the country after the season is over. A Big 12 team that defeated a Big 10 team in out-of-conference play. Or an ACC team, for example, that defeated an SEC team out-of-conference play. If Georgia Tech would have went 13-0, if they would have beaten Georgia, and they don't get the number, they don't get a first-round bye, that whole playoff format would collapse under the weight of laughter of the college football fans. We would laugh so hard, the whole thing would fall. You cannot automatically give a first round bye to the two, yes, most powerful conferences, yes, the most successful conferences, yes, but you can't get them automatic byes. We don't do that in any other collegiate sport. Why in the hell would we do that to a smaller driven data college football playoffs? It's tough enough to get to 12 teams. It's tough enough to figure this out. But now you're going to automatically give the top two teams to the Big Ten and the SEC, the first round playoffs. I pray that it doesn't happen because, first of all, the fat guy from Minnesota might stroke out in front of you. It just, everything about it hits me wrong. It's not sport. At that point, it becomes a joke unto itself. And never is a very long time. Never is a very long time. If you play this out, now I might be 6 feet underground when this happens, but at some point, Cinderella is going to make a run in this tournament. And it's going to increase the value of all college football when it happens, just like in basketball. And I got a feeling that the Arizona State Sun Devils are going to pull it off. And if it doesn't happen Friday night, Penn State and Boise State, if it doesn't happen Saturday, Arizona State in Texas, it's going to happen. Just like when I said that an SEC at-large team was going to get blown out in the first round. It was going to happen. And then it happened quickly. And that destroyed all these stupid talking points coming out from Paul Feinbaum, SEC, Kirk Herbstreit, and the rest of them. Same thing here. People are saying that Cinderella's never going to happen in college football playoffs. Football is a different game. Come on, man. You see Big Ten teams, the top of the Big Ten teams, struggle at times and even lose at times to teams that don't have the Jimmies and the Joes. You see how great Notre Dame is playing? They lost to Northern Illinois, for God's sakes. You see Georgia? They escaped against Georgia Tech. Oregon beat Boise State by 3 points earlier in this season. What if Boise State would have beaten Oregon? At Oregon, what if Boise State won by 3? And Boise State ran the table. What were you going to do? Have Oregon as the number one, an automatic berth, an automatic first round bye, and not have Boise State? You see how flimsy this all is? It could collapse at any time. No, let's just go on how we've got it for at least another year and then make the big changes in 2026, because there are going to be changes. Too much money's got to be brought in. Too much power is going to be used. The power was accumulated by the Big Ten and the SEC, and they are going to use it at some point. That's just the way it is. I am more than aware of all of that. But man, don't make this into a circus. The game that we love. I appreciate you all joining us today. We've been on the air for 2.5 hours. I do appreciate it. I appreciate you all listening to me squawk. I appreciate that. I'm very humbled that you all are part of the PATC family and that you would spend some of your time with us on a Monday night, December 30th. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing a watch party. Quarterfinals, Penn State, Boise State. I hope you join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Cinderella, is the slipper going to fit on the Broncos' hoof? I don't know, but we're going to find out together. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.